Madam Speaker.
There will now be a moment of silent prayer. Or may we order, honorable members. Honorable Chief of the MK Party, what's the point of order?
Thank you, Speaker. Today I rise on behalf of the Progressive and millions of South Africans. We cannot continue today as business as usual while we have a president in front of us who is continuously living under the shadow and facing impeachment processes. We cannot continue to legitimize his presidency.
Honorable member, what's the point of order?
Speaker, I have written a letter to you prior to...
Take the rules, take the rules.
Honorable members. Honorable members, can you please not open your mics when you are not pointed? What is your point of order?
Thank you, Speaker.
The letter you have written to me, I've received it, and I don't think it's for the House. You can take
Speaker,
it.
how can I speak?
No retreat, no surrender.
Order.
It cannot be business as usual. There is a reason why I wrote that letter today, because there is an emergency that we need to discuss as this House.
Honorable members, order. Can I address you? Can you please take your seat? Thank you. Honorable members, you have written a letter in respect of a matter that you would like the House to debate. As you know, that cannot happen today. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. I've not responded to the letter of the honorable member because I'm applying my mind on it. Today, we only have got questions to the President. Thank you. Honorable Noluchungu.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if you look around this House, you will see that this House is mainly dominated by black faces. That is as a result of those who sacrificed the generation of 1960, the students of 1976. For that, we respect this House.
Yes.
We therefore cannot sit here and listen to someone who does not respect the Constitution. So I want to register that to you.
Order, honorable members.
Hey, bye-bye.
Honorable members, can I address you? Rule 47, which talks about the sequence of proceedings. Order. Order, honorable members. I did not ask to be assisted in chairing. So can you please refrain from what you're doing? The notices and the orders of each day are discussed and agreed to in the rules, in the programming, and in the Chief Whip's Forum. The issue of a motion, which you have written to me about, as you know, has to be considered, and I will respond to you accordingly. But you cannot insist that as we sit here, we suspend the order and discuss a motion. Thank you very much. Honorable Zungula. Yes,
Speaker, this is the first time the House is meeting after the Constitutional Court rule. The first thing you should do is to inform South Africans that the President effectively charged is going to be subjected to an impeachment process. It cannot be that as the House is sitting, you do not take into confidence South Africans about this step that has never happened in our country, whereby a president is impeached. Siyakucela mama, asifuna ufane noma uNcakula uye kwi-podcast after this organization.
Can you please take your seat? Honorable member, can I address you? Unless you have forgotten what the matters that was in the Constitutional Court was about. And those matters was about Parliament and Parliament's processes. And I think people should not jump the gun in terms of those processes. You sit in the Chief Whip's Forum, you know exactly the step that the Speaker has taken in following the judgment and its implementation. And I think that matter doesn't arise now. Honorable member.
Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise on Rule 85 with respect to proper motives to the President and subsequently casting aspersion that the President doesn't respect the Constitution of the
Order,
Republic.
honorable members. Order.
That the President...
Honorable members, can you please allow a member on the podium to express himself? Honorable members, honorable member of the MK Party, do you want to actually respect this House, or you would want me to rule you out of order and subsequently ask you to leave the House? And I don't think that's what you want. So let's behave ourselves. When your Chief Whip was speaking, she was listened to, and you need to accord everybody the same right. Can you please continue?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, esteemed Honorable Speaker. Rule 85 with respect to impute improper motive to His Excellency the President that he doesn't respect the Constitution. And I must emphasize the point that the Constitutional Court has not found anything negative against His Excellency the President. The Constitutional Court has found issues relating to the rules and processes of Parliament, not His Excellency.
Because you abuse your rules. You abuse the rule.
Thank you, Honorable Member. That order, point of order, is sustained. It is within the rules, and you know it very well. Honorable members, I actually am suspending this discussion on the sequence of the program. We have you are not going to say that, Honorable Reddy. Today it's about the questions to the President, and that's where we end.
Speaker.
Can I ask respectively all other members who have got you? I've noted you, Honorable Mellon, and I've noted Honorable Mantashe, and I'm ruling that now we move to questions to the President as it is in the order paper. Thank you very much. The only item on today's order paper is questions addressed to the President. Parties, order. Honorable members, can you be in order? I've noted the leader of MK Party. I have ruled and I've sustained the order in terms of what we are here to do before in this House. And we are not having any other matter on the agenda. If you have concerns, you can follow up and write as it is according to the rules if you are not happy with the rule that has just been made in terms of the ruling. Thank you.
Speaker, the rules allow us to raise point of orders. And you can't preempt
you are
what
out
these
of
hands
order,
are going to say.
You are out of order. You are doing
members.
what they did in 2022.
Honorable
you are
members.
protecting a constitutional
Honorable
delinquent.
Honorable
Someone
member.
who could be a criminal.
Honorable Reddy, I'm naming you. I'm naming you because you know
Speaker, can I be recognized, please?
I am naming you, and the next thing you do that, you will have to leave the chamber.
Please, Speaker,
can I be
go.
recognized?
Cannot waste the time of this House. Honorable members, I have made a ruling. Honorable members, I, as the Speaker of this House, have the duty to ensure the smooth conduct. I've listened to your request and I've indicated that that does not arise. The motion that the member wants to bring will be brought here appropriately. She knows that. She wrote a letter this afternoon and she can't expect an answer and put that motion when it has not gone to the order. Honorable Reddy. Honorable Reddy, do you want to remain in the House? Better behave. Honorable members, can those of you with their hands up put them down? No. Can we go back to the order in terms
In that
of
case, Honorable Speaker, we cannot sit.
Thank you. Honorable members, those of you who want to leave the House, can you please do so orderly? Honorable members of the MK, honorable members of the KMA, you are actually causing disorder. Can the sergeant at arms please assist the members to go out? Can you please assist the members to get out of the House? Honorable members,
Use force with ready.
we have got only one item on the agenda, and that's the question addressed to the President. Parties have given an indication on which questions their members wish to pose supplementary questions. Adequate notices was given to parties for this purpose. The members who will pose supplementary questions will be recognized by the presiding officer. In allocating opportunities for supplementary questions, the principle of fairness, among others, has been applied. When all the supplementary questions have been answered by the President, we will proceed to the next question on the order paper. First questions to the President has been asked by Honorable M2. The question is that given that the South African Investment Conference 2026, which is now also replicated in other provinces, secured 415 billion in investment pledges, and noting that the Republic is grappling with a structural unemployment problem where the economy is unable to absorb those who enter the labor market on an annual basis. What is the envisaged growth in employment that is anticipated investment will bring within the medium to the long term? Honorable President, you can take the podium or answer from your seat if you want.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, honorable members, as I begin, I would ask that remember those who have lost their lives, their homes, and their livelihoods to the severe flooding our country has been facing in the past week. At least 10 lives have been lost and thousands of people have now been displaced. To say that our thoughts and our prayers are with the families who are mourning their loved ones, those who have lost their lives, all that they had, and with owners have also, we pay our respects to those. We also want to pay to the first responders who are emergency team, disaster relief personnel in the affected province. We offer those come to afford to those who have been affected by disaster, offer our nation to the authorities, relief organizations, to many community-based structures who are on the ground, various individuals. We'd like to thank you for all you're doing to those affected. And to every South African who has stepped in to help, say, Nkosi, Bayada, Siyabonga, Realebo. We should say that we stand with those affected. We've seen how our various elected officials and officials are going the areas that have been struck by disaster. We thank them, the mayors, the MECs, the premiers who have taken the trouble to go to all these places. Madam Speaker, to the question, the South African Investment Conference contribution, the 6th South African Investment Conference that we held in March secured a total of 890 billion rand in investment commitments. It's the very first time that any of our investment conference clocked up a huge number like that. Around 415 billion of that total came from private sector companies, and the remainder came from our development finance institutions as well as multilateral development banks. The 81 confirmed private investment, 53 companies employment declaration at the time of signing. The balance were not at the time able to submit tally or the numbers of those employed as a result investment commitments. Now these 53 investments are projected by the companies themselves to create up to 230,000 direct permanent jobs. Not all investment, honourable members, creates employment at the same rate. They often differ quite so. Labour-intensive investments in global business services and financial services generate approximately 3,900 jobs per 1 billion that invested. However, capital-intensive sector, renewable energy structure and data center, they generate 209 jobs per 1, while these investments that are critical for energy security in our country, as well as for digital connectivity in data center, enhance economic growth. They do not create as many jobs as directly or the jobs would want. However, they do lead to enhancing our energy security, as well as a number of the largest included those from Sasol, TN, Vodacom, Coca-Cola, a number of others involve their own expansion on existing. These investments sustain existing jobs and incrementally grow the operation of those, but in the course of time increase employment growth from these investments. We realize many years has moved from pledge to implementation. The pledges are often as a result of decisions that are taken at the board of directors. The management then start planning the process for putting down the investment. All 81 investments are being tracked quarterly by our particularly Invest SA office, and investments facing implementation blockage are referred for active resolution as the various ministers concerned. Declared employment figures be verified against actual hiring outcomes as investments mature, and an annual implementation report will be tabled. The structural unemployment is rooted in a number of reasons affecting mismatch of skills, special economic concentration, slow economic growth, formal sector, and the private structure of the economy and rise concentration also acts as a barrier to creating broader employment. These are challenges that obviously require systemic policy response beyond investment. South Africa's conference one instrument to create jobs in a government-wide. However, there are many other investments that happen outside of the confines of this strategy that we have includes a massive investment, the revitalized industrial policy, the overhaul of skills development will help us to remove also the barriers, small business, and also the completion forms of our network. This year has encouraged us to increase ambition to raise the target to R1 trillion in new investments over 5 years. Through the progress that we are making, a drive for inclusive growth as well as job creation, I am confident that we will reach the target that we've set. We will continue showing more and more equal growth in our economy. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable President. The first supplementary question will be from Honourable.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, President and all honourable members. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for a comprehensive answer. It's quite Mr. President, where I would like you to clarify this matter is that as the conference, that investment pledges were with a range of 200, and the time the level of employment slightly added. Now there's a good more money pledge, and unfortunately that image is a time where I would like the President to explain to how to obtain a strong in the light of the fact that the levels, and also President comment to whether or not aren't we confronted by seniors are making commitment that are beyond what they are able to time.
Honourable President.
Honourable Speaker, well, starting with the last part of the conference, obviously when companies make, they are expressing their hopes and their ambitions, and those hopes and ambitions should be respected because these are independent and voluntary companies that are planning for the growth of their business. And in the main, we often find that much as times there are delays in putting down those investments, they do live up to the hopes and the objectives that they have set for themselves. Sometimes the delays have to do with regulatory environment and sometimes force majeure, but in the end, majority that were found do live up to those. Sometimes it does take longer. Obviously, our economy is facing enormous challenges. Some of those challenges, difficulties, have also been given rise by the slow turn economic growth globally. Usually, a number of high-growing countries have been growing at 5%. They are now much lower. And there is a slowdown generally globally. However, we are a developing economy country and expected that our growth would be a lot higher than where it is now. We are hoping and targeting a growth level of 3% above as carry on with our reforms. The lack of reforms held companies back from investing. It has held back investment. And as we are embarking on these reforms in our logistics network to enhance exports and imports, that should lead up to many goods being exported and imported into our country. Our electricity challenges the past few years have also led to companies not being quite forward in terms of investing. When you look at factories and mines, for them to operate at an optimal level, they need energy. And without energy, economy cannot grow. Economy revolves around energy, revolves also around the regulatory environment. And it is for this reason that we are also scaling our regulatory environment, moving barriers so that businesses can operate more. Of course, the other challenge, as I said, is the concentration of the economy of our country in terms of ownership thereof. Our economy, small economy, however, is concentrated. That has been commented on by international bodies as well, like the World Bank and the IMF, who have said one of the key challenges of the South African economy is too concentrated. Too many large companies control our economy, and space has not been open for many other small and medium enterprises. And for that reason, honorable members, we are focusing on enhancing the capability of small and medium enterprises so that they can operate. And that is why we are also focusing on aspects like providing finance through a variety of funds, so that entrepreneurs, as they realize that the glass ceiling that they may have received is no longer there. So all these matters have to taken to a higher level, including skills development, focusing on how we can develop the skills, particularly of our young people. But we are also doing quite a lot when it comes to employment. Public employment programs have been lauded by many others around the world as being forward-looking and quite progressive. A lot, honorable members, is being done to focus on increasing the level of employment because the levels of our unemployment are unacceptable. For that reason, we're doing everything we can in our power to enhance the growth of our economy as well as to create more employment. Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. President. Honorable R.W. Chance.
Thank you, Madam. Mr. President, economic growth is built and rate has collapsed from 9 to 14%. There is less growth and less jobs created. The most recent quarterly confirmed that the lack of investment are dire. Our economy has lost 355,000 jobs in the last quarter. Not mere jobs, not temporary training. These outcomes of bad ANC policies, such as bailing out failed and cargo deployment, amongst others. These failed policies, Mr. President. Which one will you scrap first in order to restore and boost growth?
Thank you, Honorable President.
Well, clearly, our ambition is that we see the levels of our investment, of our growth, of our economy growing. And indeed, the gross fixed investments in our country have come down. And it's largely been the public sector that has not ramped up investment as they should. Answer that challenge. We have 1 trillion rand, the very first time in the history of our country that we commit 1 trillion rand for infrastructure investment. It's never happened. And we have focused on investing in infrastructure. As I've often said, infrastructure is the flywheel that turns the economy around, because from that flows a whole number of other benefits that can be reaped as other businesses then hang on to infrastructure projects and create more and more jobs. I'd like to address this issue that is always thrown about BEE being impediment to the growth of our economy. It is false, lies, and it is just a slogan. It has become a slogan. An honorable member, I'd like to give just one example, one sector, and that sector is mining. Pre-1994, and having been an organizer of mine workers, I should know. Pre-1994, the mining industry in our country controlled by mega companies. They held all the mineral rights in South Africa, and they were tending to hold them in perpetuity. One of them actually once said, once we are given mineral rights, they become our rights forever, and they are like biltong, dried up biltong. We just cut what we want, eat it away. But when the democratic government changed the law and nationalized all the mineral rights in our country, it opened up space for black people to get into mining. Today, many black people are now in the mining industry. They're mining manganese, which they were not able even to get into. They're mining coal. They only participated in coal as workers. They're mining gold. They only were gold miners and not owners. Today, that industry has got more black entrepreneurs. Black mining companies, some of them are the biggest. For instance, Siriti, which is a coal mining company, is owned by black people. And how can anyone say that has impeded the growth of our economy? That company and many others, Harmony and others, they are expanding their operation. They are expanding the skill base in their companies where white people only did certain jobs. They've opened up more and more black engineers are being employed at management level, and they are running those companies effectively. And more jobs are being created. So if people come with this fallacy that BEE is an impediment to the growth of the economy, go to the mining industry and see what this democratic government has done. It has changed the landscape of the mining industry, and black people are participating to full effect. I've often said, the apartheid era was so bad for our country because it only kept opportunities for a few people. Now, only 6 companies control the mining industry. Today, we've got tens and tens of black-owned companies operating in that industry, which has opened up space and making South Africa normal, rather than just making South Africa a country where only a few can participate. And I think those who say it's a holdback for economic growth should hang their heads in shame, because if they say so, it means that they wanted white people only to continue controlling the economy of our country. That cannot be, and that cannot be allowed. And we are not going to allow that. We are opening up space for black people to participate in the economy, and they've demonstrated. Siriti company alone is committing 6 billion rand building renewable energy in the Mpumalanga and the Limpopo area. What do you call that? It is growth, and it is being driven by those who have now been empowered. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, President. The next supplementary question comes from Dr. M.A. Maimane.
Kyalaboha Speaker, the President, the Quota Labour Force result survey indicates that 300,000 South Africans joined them. I'm glad you chose a sector like mining, which is the 9th. I want to pick the 4th one, which is Morocco last year surpassed South Africa as the highest motor in Africa. So you are going out, Mr. President, on raising capital. But I would argue you are being failed by your Minister of Employment. Because in truth, if we lose VW Kabeja, it is going to Morocco, which means we'll lose the whole town with jobs. So, Mr. President, I want to ask you, are you willing, and I'm willing to work with you on this, introduce reforms that will introduce EVs into our market so that we can ramp up manufacturing, if you are willing to also get rid of the Minister of Employment so that we can free up our economy, so that the investment you raise, Mr. President, can contribute to job creation. Our young people are losing their future.
Honourable Member, your time is up.
Let's act. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The low levels of employment in our country are a challenge to all of us, to government, community, companies as well as, I would say, to the leadership of this country. And political leaders are also part of it. And the causes of unemployment are numerous. They have to do with a whole number of each I have touched. Skill base in our country has to be upgraded to enable young people to be employable and to be able to be well trained in the various disciplines that companies need to run their operations. Manufacturing in our country has been sliding down. A number of factories closed, and the industrial policy process that we are involved in will soon be released by the Minister of Trade, Industry and Petitions, aimed at ensuring that we generate more growth in our economic activity, particularly in manufacturing. Agriculture is also showing growth. Mining, as we now open up for exploration more and more, and as we now have a new system of issuing license, which will enable those who want to mine to have easier access and quicker access to mine the ore reserves. And as we get rid of the regulatory process through either the licensing or the permitting system, we will be able to open the arteries of our economy so that those who want to do business can find greater opportunity to continue doing business. We are focused on that. Minister of Employment and Labour is focused also on her job. And through the various labor activation process that the department is involved in, that's precisely what we're doing. And we're also focusing on spreading of labor inspectors so that we can inspect workplaces and ensure that they operate in a way that will protect workers' rights, that will in fact advance workers' rights. All these initiatives are underway, and I have found no letdown in any of the ministers who are working on economic matters. In fact, I found that they're doing quite a lot of work, and the task they've been given is to focus on employment. That's what they've been given. In their employment, in their contracts, they have a target, they have an objective of focusing on employment as well. The management of our economy through policies that have been put out by the Ministry of Finance, DTIC, and what we are doing in various areas is to enhance economic growth and to ensure that we have more and more employment. And sometimes companies go through difficult retrench workers. We work very hard to protect employment. For instance, we were facing a real challenge recently of smelters that were about to close. And we had to step in, support those industries that are in trouble so as to save jobs and secure the jobs of people who are working in those foundries. So a lot is being done of a defensive nature as well as a proactive nature in ensuring that we secure jobs and we create more jobs. Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you,
Speaker,
Mr.
sorry, I did ask the President
What's the
about
point of order?
EVs. That is my point of order. The President did not respond to my question about electric vehicles.
Order,
That was the
honourable
question.
member. Yes, I understand, and I was going to say maybe when President responds to the question by Mr. Ntuli, he can then respond to that part of it, if you would allow. Honourable Ntuli.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thanks, President, for your response. Questions about investment. Now, Mr. President, given the fact that both our local and national investors are pumping money into the economy, it is inevitable that the government is going to have to work out a strategy, align the skills development in the country, especially in the manufacturing sector, in the IT and the renewable space, in order to ensure that at the time when these investments are maturing, we're not running into a different problem of the lack of this. So I would like to get the President to comment on what work is being done to ensure that we raise the skills level, the sectors that investment are going to.
Thank you, Honourable Mr. President.
Honorable Speaker, without trying to, because it's room, not hear fully what Honorable Maimani's question on EV was. We've got the noise outside and didn't hear him very clearly. If he could repeat his question on EVs.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll ask Honourable Maimane to repeat that section of his.
Of course, Mr. President. I was saying, Rwanda is the South African government forms 20 vehicles. Of course, you can't keep making petrol economy that. That's what.
Thank you.
Honourable President.
Thank you. Let me start off with Honorable Ntuli's question. Yes, development and enhancement of skills of all workers, including just young people, is something that is prominent in our minds, and that is why I have been talking about ensuring that we have a dual system, a system where young people are able to be brought into the world of work, are trained on the job, but are also trained academically in various institutions. Countries that have done so, like Germany and like Switzerland that I visited last year, demonstrated that when you have a dual, you are able to increase levels of employment. As young people come into the world of work, they are assured of getting employment. And we do have quite a lot of funds that I now want us to mobilize to achieve that objective. We've had for quite a long time, yes, our CETAs, and we have said now we are going to review our CETA system. Our current CETA system does not fully ensure that a dual system actually in place. Now, with a review of our CETA system, we should be able to have a dual system right from the big training of young people. Academically, they should be paired with actual live jobs so that when they finish their academic training, they are then able to know that they are going to a job. We practice this with the YES program, which I've reported about. The YES program, which started years ago, was precisely that type of initiative in government and the private sector, which brings in young people into the world of work, skills them and prepares them for employment. Admittedly, not all of them finally get jobs, but a majority of them do get jobs, and they leave that program knowing that they're either employed by those companies or they will get jobs elsewhere. Now, that is what South Africa should now move towards. And that is why, Madam Speaker, I'd like to see more and more for our private sector participating in a very positive and revolutionary way, skill our country. One of the key problems with our economy is that skill base we have is not well matched with the needs that industry or the economy needs. So we've got to make sure that we merge the two, and in that way we will be able to create more and more jobs. When it comes to Honorable Maimani's question, yes, EVs are the future. Many companies around the world are now switching over to electric vehicles. They have their own challenges. We are finalizing the full program, EVs, and the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition is finalizing all that. and we should be able to issue that out so that the car manufacturer can come to the fore. Many car manufacturers, and I've been to some of them in China, for instance, want to speed up their own process of electric vehicle. A number of them have even said they will lay out the charging system throughout the country so that South Africa, in many ways, or in some ways, migrate to EV. Certainly not every car will be EV driven, but a number of cars will be. So we are a most developed industrial base on the continent. And for us, it's the process. We will be able to take to this quite quick. Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. We now move to the second question by Honorable Ms. J.S. Peterson. The question to the President is whether the government intends to use the South African National Defence Force and/or the public service to expand skills development and job placements as a response to youth unemployment. If not, what is the position in this regard? So, how will the government ensure that such a program is international and sustainably funded?
Honorable Speaker, there are various skills development programs and job programs in public service, which include learnership, internships, apprenticeships, graduate recruitment, and workplace-based. These are programs that are undertaken by various government departments, support of Department of Service Administration. The public service provides a valuable platform for skills and youth employment as well. Consideration is being given, for instance, to strengthening workplace exposure by assigning youth senior managerial positions, be adopted also by those who are currently more. A Department of Public Service has begun exploratory to provide permanently employed young people, and in turn, department work exposure is aligned to the peer review mechanism. The National School of Government, in collaboration with other departments, currently conducting training programs for unemployed young people and developmental, in line with the Redevelopment Act, which advocates for the establishment of the National Youth Service. And in response to high levels of, as the President and Commander-in-Chief, we should consider a step change to increasing numbers of employed young people. The Department of Defense is involved in leading the war on unemployment. It does so in partnership with other government departments and also the private sector, so as to ensure that the whole of society becomes involved as well. The SANDF supports the National Rural Youth Service Corps, we call NARIS, which aims to reduce unemployment among young people in rural skills development, leadership training. The SANDF has also established the South African National Service, focuses on young people, not employment. Now, the Institute is mandated to implement comprehensive youth program, partner stakeholders from the private and public. The programs recruit unemployed young people, equip them with classroom-based training as well as practical work. In the course of 2025, 584 men who were trained character-building program have come out of the program much more empowered. Of these, 200 currently are artisans or are sponsored by one of our remaining students commencing with health promotion training in 3 months. Now, this training conventional med training is offered by the SAN that are entering the Defence Force full-time base. And our Defence Force is not a Defence Force that's only geared up for war, defending South Africa. Defence Force that gets involved in a whole variety of programs, many of which are aimed at training young to acquire real skills, some in the engineering field, and a number of them leave those programs, NARISEC particularly, either go and start their own businesses to get employment. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable President. Honorable J.S.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. How many young does the government who could be accommodated annually through any proposed South African National Defence Force skills development initiative, and what project budget allocation and funding source have been identified over?
I think the President didn't hear you very well. If you can please respond again.
Honorable the President, how many young does the government who could be accommodated annually through any proposed defence skills and what projected budget allocation funding sources have been identified over?
Mr. President.
Yes, I think I heard some aspect question. I seem to hear whether I know and have the number of people brought in the program and what was the budget spent being training all those. I'm afraid I do not have that, but I'm happy that the number secured and applied to the Honourable. I apologize for this. The number I mentioned has to do with about 584 who were brought in the program and who trained in a number of disciplines. I will get number as well as budget or the expenditure that was incurred for the training of the other.
Thank you, Mr. President. Honorable B.M. Maneli.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable President, in light of the initiative launched by the Department of Public Service to provide work exposure, such as learnership internships, the President provides details on how these programs are being scaled across the department and what measurable outcomes in youth.
Mr. President.
As I said, the various programs that government has embarked upon are spread throughout a number of departments. However, Presidential Employment Initiative has sought to agglomerate all of them with various government departments participating. And I have said before, up to 2 million young people have gone through the various employment initiatives. This, you might recall, started during COVID, when we brought in student assistance to almost the 25,000 of our schools. Their participation in our schools was felt by the teachers, by the students themselves, the learners, as well as by community. Wherever I went, I heard that we would like those assistants to stay because they are supporting the education initiatives in their schools. And those young people who went in were trained or helped the schools in a variety of ways. On IT, they helped the schools from methods that they had learned from their own learnings or university or colleges, and they were quite effective. Apart from that, we also had a number participating in agriculture. We also had a number participating in in health. So programs are spread throughout the various departments, and we have found them to be quite effective. Of course, only let down for us the budgetary constraints we have. We wanted finance or treasury to give more money to this program, but there wasn't just enough money. So it's been scaled back quite a bit, disappointingly. But we are hoping that more money, as the fiscus gets more revenue, we will be able to upscale that. These programs, all of them together, have proven quite beneficial to young people, and some of them have actually been bursary. Various government departments given bursaries to young people, either to learn here in our country or offshore. Combined with what we are doing through NSFAS, we have found that these programs are actually empowering to young people. So combination of all these programs have standing young people instead. And you may also know that we set up a platform where young people fly to their own CVs and make themselves available to employers. It's a platform that now has up to 5 million young people, and a number of them are able to source employment or training that platform. So much is being done to bring down the levels of unemployment, particularly amongst young people in our country. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. E.R.J. please.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. President, South Africa does not from a shortage of training. It suffers from a shortage of jobs. As very few of these training programs translate to real employment opportunities. Without measuring outcomes, we cannot measure these programs. Can the President therefore indicate what percentage of participants in existing government-funded skills programs have ultimately absorbed in real jobs? And if the President cannot, why would he be willing to take even more money from the taxpayer to fund yet another costly training scheme without the guarantee of real jobs to tackle our staggering youth unemployment rate?
Honourable Mr. President.
Well, the question that you are raising on precisely what is the main focus of the various programs and see much more directly. That is why we're seeking to get contribution that is made by employers to be properly utilized for dual training that we are about. Because money that finally gets in skills fund properly utilized in the way that it is through this type of initiative or program that we will be able to increase the level of employment of our young people. Yes, you are right. Often not so much skills, but jobs. But it's an intersection between skills and jobs. People need to get jobs to enhance their own skills, but they also need skills to be able to get into job opportunities. So we do need to focus on both as we create more and more for young people to learn, and also for young people to be able to jobs. So we see dual system as being best that we can embark upon. More successful, more industrialized, that are well steeped engineering process and creating quality products have embarked on this, and they've been doing it for years to good effect, and their levels of unemployment are rather low. Got in a way to burn the candle on both sides to make sure that address the two problems more or less. Thank you, Honourable.
Thank you, Honourable President. Honourable Nkwankwa.
President, in order for the defense force to be able to do what suggested, the first thing to be done is address the strains that are faced by the Department of Defense. I want to ask a question that, given that Cabinet approved recently SANDF's long-term force journey to greater, aimed at modernizing, rebuilding and reforming the defense force. This strategy follows decades of funding of the defense, which affected its state of readiness. To what extent will the journey to greatness strategy secure increased funding for defense, and where will the the additional resources come from to address the SANDF's funding challenge? Thank you.
Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. We all know how departments such as Defence Force, Police, and a number of others, including now the Border Management Authority, have been starved of the necessary financial resources that they need to operate at a much better level than they do. And the Defence Force's journey to greatness has to be supported by adequate funding. And this is what we are doing. Over years, the funding to the Defence Force has been coming down, and unacceptably down, because over the years, the needs that we have in our country have been quite enormous, where we are now spending 61% of our budget on social welfare. And in getting to that point, Defence Force has been starved of the resources that it needs. And we are now turning that around. In the end, it is people of South Africa who, through the revenue that is raised from them, will need to fund Defence Force, will need to fund through their taxes Defence Force. It is the national security of our country that needs to be secured. So moving to that point of greatness once again is going to require full commitment on government side to deploy more financial resources for the defense. I can say is that the commitment is firm. Myself, Commander of our Defense Force, of our armed forces, the commitment is firm from Cabinet, and we are going to make sure that the Defense Force is no longer starved of resources that it. So we will, moving forward with our various budgets, allocating more and more money to defense. Of course, I know you would like me to stand here and masquerade as a Minister of Finance. I cannot do so. That will be done in the budgets that are forthcoming from Treasury Department. So I can say, watch that. We are going to be allocating more money to the defense.
Thank you, Honorable President. Honorable J.S.
Is there any aim to prioritize province or category employed youth in the implementation of any such program? If so, what criteria used to ensure fairness and equitable, especially?
Can I ask you to come on the front row mic? I'm sorry. I don't think President was able to pick up your last.
I think it's even more to speak into the mic like I am doing, even when seated.
Speaker.
You can go ahead. Yes, Honorable Chief of PA.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Sorry to do this. My apologies. I have, while I'm sitting, sent a message to Peter to say she must use a campaign voice because I know her outside of this house.
Honorable Member, Chief Whip, don't take it from Honorable Peterson. She will do exactly what she needs to.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think the President should have. Honorable President, is there any intention to prioritize specific provinces or categories of unemployed youth in the implementation of any such program? If so, what will be the criteria to ensure fairness, transparency, and equitable, especially in underserved?
Thank you, Honorable President.
Could the Honourable Member come closer, please?
Order, Honorable Members.
Honourable.
You can go ahead, Honorable.
Is there any intent to prioritize specific provinces or categories of unemployed youth in the implementation of any such program? If so, what criteria will be ensure fairness, fair and equitable, especially in under?
Thank you.
I rise on a point of order.
What is the point of order?
Honorable
Mr. President, you can take a seat.
Honorable Speaker, as the Chief Whip of the Patriotic Alliance,
Yes.
I've said campaign voice, not below talk voice.
That is not a point of order, Honorable Malum. What I will do to make sure that President is able to hear members, will give him the earphone. And I'm sorry, we are not going to have other candidates to come to the podium to ask their question. Honorable President.
I think the Honourable Chief Whip of the Patriotic Alliance has imaginations of grandeur. I could never have a pillow talk in public.
That is not parliamentary also. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Yes, Honourable Peters, you are raising a very important question about the transparency and the ability of these types of programs, which if, for instance, the Defence Force embarks on, it should be able to be transparent about where it will source those people who will participate in the programs and what criteria will be used to identify them so that they can get into. Your suggestion is well said and actually something that we ought to be doing so that we move away from the notion of certain either provinces or communities living out underserved. It's something that will pass on to our various departments so that they are able to reach out as they source young people to participate in these types of programs. And I know the impact that it would have if sourcing of those young people extend to the deep rural community of our communities that hardly get much. So I take to heart the suggestion, and I'm rather pleased that you came up to the podium because I could now hear you much clearly. Thank you very much. Apart from seeing you, of course, it was a joy to see you.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. Our next question, question 9, is from Honorable Jim Michalakis. Honorable Michalakis, I would like to congratulate you for having been elected now the leader of the Democratic Alliance in Parliament. But I know that you are still doubling up. I haven't been told who's the new chief whip. So you are a chief whip in transition to being, that step of moving. So the question, Mr. President, is whether he has found that the rollout of Operation Prosper has succeeded in the objective thus far. If not, what is the position in this regard? If so, what are the, Mr. President?
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Since our commencement across the joint deployment service, and it has yielded significant stabilizing sports and also disrupting acts of crime across Gauteng. Given the recent commencement deployment, certain priority early draw regarding impact and also number. However, indications suggest reduction selected crime cuts more than 1,000 have been detected, and most notable 500 Western 200. There has been a strong drug legal mining as well, alongside serious violence. Now, operational intensity staying in all this through execution of over 3,000, including roadblocks, target tracing, resulting 18 firearms, 702 rounds of ammunition, and 180 explosives. This directly capacity. Now, these outcomes are underpinned by robust command structure, established joint operation intelligence, ensuring integrated planning, daily joint unified service, and Honourable, so while there is tangible progress claiming territory, stabilizing, advancing broader outcome, government-wide, society-wide effort to crime, address social, and it much can and currently it also enforced, supported by an integrated crime prevention strategy under all parts of state and also in this regard, it was a correct deploy the support to South Africa, and we are beginning recovery of so much talks how it arrests so many pointing us in direct. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable President. Honourable Michalakis.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and for kind words. Mr. President, I have different stats. During the week of 23 February to 1 March, gang violence across the Cape Flats claimed 56 lives. In the first week of Operation Prosper, it averaged 32 people. Between October and December last year, an average of 20 illegal firearm and ammunition-related cases were recorded in Spain alone. For the first month of Operation Prosper, among multiple deployment areas, the figure has gone up from 23. Based on this, the situation has gotten worse. The price tag is 823 rand, whilst the national government is responsible for policing. Mr. President, can you look the mothers who lost children killed on the flats, Westbury and other places since the start of Prosper in the eye and say to them too is working?
Thank you, Honourable President.
Honourable Member, yes, be able to look those mothers for my condolence and also offer my inform them community are doing everything they can, and we will do much more to bring down the levels of gang violence. And of course, we can politicize this matter as much as we like. The fact of the matter that when lives are lost, we should all be saying we want the police, the SAND. That is why I say government-wide and community-wide effort that will bring down the... We are scaling up our intelligence service. We are scaling up our surveillance of all these gangs, and much is being done to ensure that we bring down this level. Yes, we count the cost. The cost about deployment, those people, soldiers, police that we are deploying, who are working way beyond their normal hours of work, who have to accommodate away from their family, who also have to be transported to wherever they need to go. That costs money. And we've always all said, let's put more boots on the ground. Let's have more and more security officials on the ground. And that's precisely what we are doing. Success will come. I'm sure about that. And our police service and our defense force is under enormous pressure on me to make sure that Operation Prosper does so. So I'm looking forward to much better news going forward, rather than, yes, the bad news that you work with us, work with the police, and let's see how best we can bring those levels down. Thank you, Honourable.
Thank you, Honourable President. Honourable WM3.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Mr. President, the ACD welcomed the SANDF's deployment support of SAPS to fight organised crime and plaguing our communities. Trusting deployment resulted in safer. Sadly, leaders have criticised military presence as short-term band-aids to a long-term violent crime. Mr. President, noting the undervision by Honourable Kwangwa of the SANDF, given that Cabinet has recently approved a journey to greatness for the SANDF, will the Honourable President, as Commander-in-Chief, number one, ensure that additional financial resources are made available to guarantee SANDF not only journey to greatness strategy, but is able to fulfill its command of protecting country, including this case, supporting in fighting organised crime. And secondly, does the journey to greatness strategy have an explicit exit strategy to prevent violent crime when the SANDF...
Thank you, Honourable President.
Simple, straightforward answer to that is yes. We will ensuring that supports SANDF's journey to greatness, and that has to be underpinned by giving more resources and we support the police service, strengthen them, enhance their capability, so that with time approved by Parliament for them to deploy it in that area, when it comes to an end or scale down, they are able, as a South African Police Service, to work with the community much more with our community forum, with everyone in the community, so that we are able to rid of organized crime and gang. So the full answer is yes, we are committed to capacitate them initially, and so that they can have all the resources they need to secure this. Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you, Honorable President. Honorable Michalakis.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. President, the answer is not the army. The answer is police. You just said that you should not politicize the matter. So my question to you, Mr. President, is if local and provincial governments here in the Western Cape are willing to help save lives, do you agree that your government should give them more powers to?
Honorable President.
Our police have powers to fight crime. Our constitution empowers to fight crime. The law empowers police to fight crime. So there's nothing stands in the way of our police in whatever fashion, constitutional or legally or otherwise. Their command empowers them to fight crime. And all that we need to do is strengthen capacity of the police, not only at national level, at provincial level, at local level. Every police station in the country must be empowered to ensure that it's able to either stop criminality, work with community forums, and investigate criminality. That's what they are there. We can never have a situation where we tie the hands of the police behind their backs. That can never be. So the police are empowered. False notion to think that particular areas do not have the power. Every police official has the power. Ensure that we fight criminality. Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you, President. We now move to question number 10, asked by Honorable Van Staden to the President. The question is, in view of the serious allegations made against a certain person in his cabinet, name and details furnished, which raise urgent questions about accountability, what are the reasons that he has not acted decisively, suspending and or removing the person from cabinet, whether he commits to act decisive regard? If not, why not? If so, what are the relevant? Honorable President.
Honorable Speaker, on the basis of various reports, the media, as well as representation in Parliament, I requested then Minister of Development to furnish me with reports on all these matters. Discussions, give her out her case. Having considered all these by them in mindful conduct, I have decided the Minister in terms of one. Now, an announcement to this effect was made. Often in her stead, our Mr. Bunga will act while I give further consideration to what happened in that portfolio. Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you, President. Honorable Van Staden.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. President, the Freedom Front Plus welcomes your decision to release from social development from a duty, and this shows that public as well as political parties like ourselves bear the gain. However, Mr. President, will you table the finding or report to form your decision moved before Parliament?
Honorable President.
The President is never required to disclose the reasons why they appoint or disappoint, in other words, remove any member of the executive, and I intend to by the convention in practice. Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you, the President. Honorable T.P. Munyai.
Esteemed Honorable Speaker, esteemed Excellency, the Honorable President's authority or the prerogative to appoint, retain, suspend members of the executive prescribed by Section 91 of the Republic of 19, which vests such powers within the constitutional discretion of the Honorable. Whilst we are mindful of the doctrine of the separation of powers without each branch not allowed to intrude or overreach on the other branch state. What has His Excellency the Honorable President would have done to maintain and store public confidence in the integrity of the executive in this regard? Already, His Excellency, you already answered to this question. I thank you, Honorable.
Honorable President.
I believe the Honorable Member concedes that the question has. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Honorable N.K. Sharif.
Mr. President, we commend you taking action against the now former Minister Tolashe. Scandals like these compromise public trust in the executive, and South Africans are the one who ultimately pay the price. By agreeing with the leader of the Democratic Alliance and firing Sisi Tolashe, you have taken decisive action in cleaning up cabinet. But Mr. President, we need to keep this momentum going. We cannot have ministers suspended indefinitely, drawing salaries from taxpayers' money while they sit at home and do nothing, undermining the integrity of national government. We trust that you will keep this momentum going, and now turn your attention firing Minister Mtulu. With Mr. Tolashe out of cabinet, Mr. President, will you finally act and amend the Executive Ethics Code to ban ministers from accepting luxury gifts, particularly from foreign governments?
Thank you, Honorable Member. Just again to remind members, in the House we don't call each other by name. We preface by saying Honorable Member so and so, or we say miss or miss. I'm happy you corrected yourself on the second sentence, but it's just a reminder once again. Honorable President.
Members of the executive bound to disclose and declare gifts that are given to them, to me, upon of that declaration, were able to, yes, you may accept, or nay, you may not accept. So in the end, all those gifts above a certain amount are declared. So you can rest assured that we do have a credible process in government through which the executive deal with sorts of. As regards the minister that spended that's spoken about, I have said publicly that I waiting for the outcome at Langa, all the matters that they are dealing. It is upon research that determined. Thank you, Honourable.
Thank you, Mr. President. Honourable D. James.
Thank you, Mr. President. We welcomed her earlier today, but I want to ask, will she be charged for fraud? Will her advisor, the Ben 10, be paying the money for that irregular appointment? Will the cousin to the advisor for that irregular appointment also be paying back the money, Mr. President? Mr. President, I want to put it to you, it is not the only aid that she's been stealing from. I brought more receipts. She's been doing this since her time as a deputy minister. I have a sworn affidavit as well as bank statements. Will the minister doing the right to pay back all these aids that she's been from? Mr. President, what is your response to that? I think.
Honourable James, I've noted some of the language that you've, and some of the matters, as you know, you'll have to bring a substantive motion to the House. You may have an affidavit, but for it to serve in the House for debate, you'll have to bring a substantive. And secondly, I think languages of Ben 10, I'm not sure that they can be used in Parliament. Honourable President.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I think that some matters are better articulated, not for anger. I think the message descends rather well when it is so. However, I should say all process matters related to this whole incident are being worked through by the Public Service Station. So the Public Service Station, relevant body that looks at all these types of, and I have confidence that they will be able good conclusion so that this matter. Thank you, Honourable.
Thank you, Mr. President. Honourable Van Staden.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. President, clear government, the fight against corruption and maladministration are dependent on transparency. The people of South Africa have a right to know exactly what was going on in the Department of Social Development. Therefore, Mr. President, what criteria or thresholds does the President apply when determining whether to spend or remove a cabinet member facing serious litigation?
Honourable President.
Well, ordinarily, the Code of does apply. And beyond that, in the end, a judgment call is made by the President, appoint or not to appoint anyone to the executive. Thank you, Honourable.
Thank you, Mr. President. We now move to question 11, which has been asked by Honourable Katie Khabo. The question is, given that the government has historically intervened to assist in debt relief efforts for its strategic sectors such as energy and municipalities, what is his position on introducing similar innovative measures to address student debt, perpetuate poverty and inequality by preventing students from graduating and or obtaining their certificates to assess employment and or further their studies? Honourable President.
Speaker, government has previously a number of ways to assist debt relief and higher education training. Now, this in 2019, debt relief, historically held debt that was due to NSFAS, qualifying students, amount of 900 rand, almost $1 billion. Now, this was directed debt, predated the new aid model. The National Student Fund Aids NSFAS supports close on to 900,000 a year from low income as well as family in order to access higher education. Students supported by NSFAS who apply on time, academic progression requirement, graduate for higher level with no debt. In other words, they will benefit called free university college. While NSFAS funding supports undergraduate, and there are also alternative forms of support, a number including various university allocated funding, commercial loans that the university growing debt student debt. Now this debt reaches 2094. This student debt is not held by the government, by public university. This is a concern official university. In 2020, the Minister of Higher Ed and Training reported that Cyril Ramaphosa had provided advice of what we call a comprehensive model. This model would address aid for students who are considered to be in the so-called. This is a diverse group of self-funded, including those who do not NSFAS criteria and those who may struggle to access forms of. Now, work on this comprehensive funding model is still. In addition, the department itself process finalizing precisely this model. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to have a new model to those students who are in the missing middle, where they are able to hold levels of funding, but not the complete funding required for their ed. So we would like to student debt quite some, so that all all our young people are able to education fair base. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable President. Mr. K.T. Khabu.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much also, Mr. President. We really appreciate the response and your commitment towards the realization of free quality education in South Africa. However, Mr. President, given the recent reports indicate a rise in youth unemployment and appreciating that student debt serves as a structural barrier that prevents graduates from entering the workforce, does the government regard this crisis as a matter requiring additional national intervention, similar to how the government has previously intervened to destabilize sectors considered strategically important to the economy? Thank you very much.
Honourable President.
Yes, it is so that more resources are required. The government spends 4 billion rand on supporting young people to access higher education. Now, with the strained fiscal position that we have, obviously our ambition, our wish is that we should expand the ability of NSFAS to all students, but are not able to do so with the resources that we have at hand. Our ambition, obviously, is what we want to focus on and to see the extent to come up with a model that will support young people in an affordable manner. And I know, for instance, a number of other, they have a system where children from poor and class fully support. At the same time, those who are able to have some funding are supported through bursaries that they then start paying off when they start working. That is a model I believe can help to cover all this in our country that need higher. Of course, you mentioned how for our teachers also come to the fore. Teachers are more geared for those who have qualified skills, but we are seeking to find ways through this model that is now in development. And I'll be following up with the Minister that this model must now be speeded up so that the open discussion, debate, and then we should implement it because it will, to a large extent, help to solve the problem many of our young people are facing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Honourable Hadebe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honourable President, South Africa currently lacks a uniform legal framework prohibiting holding academics as individuals operate at their own. Mr. President, does the government consultation of higher learning have financially sustainable and cost-effective plans to practically address the interest that graduates continue to accrue student debt? If not, why not? So, what are...
Thank you, President.
I did not hear that final part of...
Honourable Hadebe, you can read it while seated down, it's fine. No one is going to have another opportunity to walk to the podium. No.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The question was if the government, in consultation with higher learning, have financially sustainable and cost-effective plans to practically address the interest that graduates continue to accrue on students, given the fact that South Africa currently lacks a uniform legal framework prohibiting holding academic.
Honourable President.
No, I'm not aware of a plan that will address of the accrual of the. However, the problem that you are citing, the matter around, sort of higher and involved discussion with the various to find ways and means of addressing precisely this problem. So solutions may well be in hand. The other part, of course, is how best financial institutions assist in setting up this type of model that is now being developed. Quite often, issue of do with money. Yes, agree that it's that, but it is that cost as they are deprived of money. So it's a matter, there's a problem that has to be resolved, and we need schemes. Young people know they don't qualify for help, else model that will affordable, a model that they themselves feel free to participate in. Thank you, Honourable.
Thank you very much, Honourable President. Honourable
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. President, the new funding model you referred to earlier on in this question, do you know if it will apply retrospectively to students who are already stuck with this problem? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable President.
I would hope and want it to apply because students are heavily burdened. And so therefore, if we build a model like that, it should be a model that will resolve problems that inherited the past. So I would want to apply retrospective as well. Good idea, and thank you for that idea, which we will take forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Honourable Khabu.
No, thank you very much, President, and thanks for your response. And I appreciate the fact that you also acknowledge that the historical debts continue to rise. Now, on behalf of students who are academic students, Mr. President, I would like to get clarity from you on what will be different from the model that will be introduced. We acknowledge the intervention of the previous model. It has managed to accommodate students who are located. But what will be different from the model that will be introduced? Thank you very much.
Honourable President.
Well, I'm hoping that the model will be comprehensive. It will be a model that applies more broadly and will be a model, as I said, affordable. Because when students start off their own lives, they should be burdened too much debt, too much money to repay their education. We need to have a model that will make it easier for them to start off in their lives. lives. The model will be put out, and we will be obviously consulting with student organizations themselves. In developing the model, I know that they have already engaged in some ways, and the finalization of the model will be forthcoming. Thank you.
Thank you, President. We now move to question number 12, the last day. It's by Honorable SNM Kwenazondi. The question is, noting that Section 8 and 9 of South Africa's Police Service Act prescribes a mandatory board of inquiry and due process prior to the suspension or removal of a national committee, and that Section 86 of the Public Finance Management Act criminalizes financial misconduct only upon proof of willful or gross negligent conduct in a court of law. On what lawful and rational basis he bypassed the emptory procedures of the SAPS Act in favor of a so-called contextual precautionary substitution, notwithstanding that the PFMA threshold criminal liability has not yet been judicially established, and how does he justify appointing as acting National Commissioner Lieutenant General Puleng Tipane, National Commissioner responsible for Financial Management Service, who indicated in that her department allowed the payment of the 8 million in the same Medicare 24 tender process that is under investigation, rather than an independent appointee, without creating a reasonable apprehension of conflicted oversight in selecting Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable. The National Commissioner of the Fani, Temula, means as a result, there's no need to engage the Process 8 and 9 Act, which process aim at base consider the placement of Temula precautionary suspension necessary to ensure the stability and function of the South African service while the criminal process. It's important that a legal process allowed to unfold without. I appointed Lieutenant General Puleng Tipane additional because of her record and standing. She had a long service record. There is, to my knowledge, no evidence that Tipane in relation. I have full confidence in her ability to act in the position Commissioner is right. Fully supported, working together, sure that we deal with acts of criminality that arrive. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable President. Honorable D.R. Direko.
Thank you, Speaker. Honorable President, you have done Department SAPS in line. However, what makes now excited without any previous.
Honorable President.
The acting commissioner is well supported and also well supported by the Minister of Police, Atalia. To my knowledge, they are all working very well together. Spirit developed, evolved. So I have no doubt that they will be able to task at hand, the diligence requires, without any form of interference. Anyone. I have said General Mpane, she must act her task without any quota, and she is quite a thinker herself, and I do independently. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Honorable Michalakis.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. President, the nation entrusted you to appoint a suitable actioner for SAPS. Yet your decision has already raised concerns over the lack of operational police experience for the top cop. There seems to be almost no one clean among the top ranks, so we understand you were not spoiled for choice. Recent reports show that 26 senior officials at Brigadier Major General level and above suspended or arrested, with more expected. The failures are a direct result of deploying cadres. When, Mr. President, will you acknowledge that the SAPS leadership is dysfunctional due to ANC cadre deployment?
Honorable President.
In setting up Madanga intended to examine and find out exactly the issues you are addressing. And it is that commission that is to identify all the acts of wrongdoing, identify also the capability or lack thereof amongst the senior police. This is an important process our country is going through. And I would just wish that we all support it and await results of Madanga, whereafter we are able to take much clearer steps to move our police service forward. Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you, Honorable President. That concludes questions to the President, and we'd like to thank you for coming to the House. And can all of you take your seats and not leave the House? I'm only allowing the President to take his. Thank you. Order. Can we take our seats? Honorable members, I just want to advise that when we are in the House here, given the noises as a result of the aircons, if you are not able to hear very well, please utilize the earphones which are provided for. The privilege that was just given to Honorable Peterson is not going to be repeated. I request members to stand and await the Speaker and the maids to leave the chamber. That concludes the business for the day, and the House is adjourned.